Viewer discretion is advised.
Cleveland. This pretty much sums it all up. Another factory of sadness, Richfield served its 20-year usage in Northeast Ohio and then was ultimately demolished in 1999 to become a national park. Yes, after sitting empty for 5 years, Ohio thought it best just to level the place and make it a spot for bird watching, which is what fans used to do in the 80s when he scored on their team relentlessly. Apparently it's a good place to see some bobolink and sparrows. Who knew?
Moondog and Sir CC, Cleveland. Dog mascots are always a good choice, and while our friend Moondog has the facial expression of somebody getting a prostate exam, he looks the part well. Sir CC looks like he just watched Two Girls, One Cup, and quite honestly, isn't really needed in my opinion. Still, I'll give this one high marks for Moondog. Rating, 7 out of 10. Cleveland Cavaliers, LeBron James. Just hearing the name LeBron James causes many people to turn their brains off and react with a vicious hatred. I don't understand it, and I've never really understood it. Nevertheless, this was a no-dud choice, as Bron won 2 MVPs, a ring, and Finals MVP with Cleveland, a franchise that hasn't won anything without him. If not for Kyrie's kneecap exploding in 2015 and Kevin Durant being a vagina and joining Golden State, LeBron might have brought multiple titles to the land. He's had most of his best postseason runs in the Cavs uniform, and the 2018 version of himself is still, in my mind, the best basketball player I've ever watched for a given year. I wouldn't be shocked if he decides to come home for a third time in the near future. Cleveland Cavaliers, Anthony Bennett. For my money, Bennett is the biggest draft bust in NBA history, not just the Cavaliers. In all my years as a basketball fan, I've never seen any player, let alone a first overall pick, look so out of place on an NBA court. Bennett literally did nothing well, a fact that became apparent very quickly to Cleveland, who dropped him after just 1 season in a trade to Minnesota. Bennett would play parts of 4 seasons with 4 different teams before falling out of the league entirely in 2017. It's hard to be worse than this guy was. Cleveland Cavaliers. This team's relevance depends entirely on whether or not LeBron James feels like playing for them. I'm not sure insulting LeBron triggers Cavs fans because I don't know if most Cavs fans even like LeBron. I know most do, but there's this weird subsection of Cavs fans who still hate LeBron because he left them twice, even though he's the best player ever and he gave them 11 seasons, and most importantly, the most memorable title in sports history. 2022 was the first time in literal decades this team showed any promise without the king to guide them. But I'm here to tell you Darius Garland and Evan Mobley are not good enough to be the lead dogs on a title team. Your best case scenario is being the Midwest version of the Hawks. Very sad.
Is too good for any sort of defensive responsibility. They can just sit and watch as LeBron bails out this godforsaken squad with his talent. This year is supposed to be the big hurrah, the proving that their championship wasn't just a fluke. The Cavs were here to stay. As a result of LeBron's hubris, things may have gotten significantly worse over the past year. The Cavaliers have gone on hand and foot to please LeBron and shower him with everything he wants. Despite it, this may not be enough to prevent the inevitable. If LeBron leaves, the Cavaliers are absolutely fucked. Even with the first-round pick gifted by Billy King to the Celtics all those years ago, the nuclear fallout from this situation could last for years. I felt weird making the Cavs video. It was either that I was a month too late or 4 months too early. It was made in a limbo just after they gutted the entire team at the deadline. There was really any way they could go. Unfortunately for them, it turns out the video was the latter option. The Cavaliers are once again irrelevant. LeBron is gone. Again. It was one of those things many of us could see coming from a mile away. The hints were being dropped throughout the past year, yet there were a lot of Cavs fans that didn't want to believe it. They just wanted to sit back and enjoy the ride. I honestly don't blame them. The sad reality is that the revamped Cavs were just as awful as the drama-laden squad that sucked their way throughout January. The only difference here is that they now have thrown even more money at the problem. Jordan Clarkson was so awful that he didn't play several games in the playoffs as a coach's decision. Rodney Hood, same thing, although he did okay in the games he was allowed to dress for. George Hill spent more time being useless than anyone. Proof that being paid $20 million per year can't make you shoot a fucking free throw. J.R. Smith's main ambition involved the next bottle of Henny he was going to drink. Tristan Thompson chose to become entangled in the spider web of Kardashians. Kevin Love kept getting injured. And there was some other shit they found at the dollar store too. When you have to rely on Larry Nance Jr., there is a serious goddamn problem with your team. Cleveland may have made the finals, but it was literally LeBron James single-handedly carrying a bunch of overpaid scrubs to relevance. Let's be honest, this team should have lost to the Pacers or Celtics. It would have been a glorious laugh, and we wouldn't have been stuck with Warriors Cavs yet again. Although we did get to relish in the epic failure of the paper champion Raptors. The only benefit the Cavs had was that the Eastern Conference is a fucking joke and a half. It masked the ever-present problems of the organization, which leads us to an incredibly predictable ending. The inevitable heat death to the Warriors. Most of the finals wasn't even close to being competitive. It literally turned into LeBron against the world. Again. The fact that Kyrie was able to skip town and that the return blew up in their faces was laid full bare in these 4 games. True, the Cavs had a shot to win Game 1, but you can thank that band of idiots that LeBron handpicked for fucking it up. George Hill blew it, JR thought they had the lead, and the puppet didn't call a timeout they still had. The only winner of the NBA playoffs were the memes. LeBronto and JR were the gold standard that will live on in time. Unfortunately, Cleveland took a big L for the short and long-term future. LeBron may have been the reason they were relevant, but he was also holding the organization hostage with year-to-year uncertainty. It was a slow-motion car crash we could all see coming from a mile away. LeBron has nothing else to gain from staying in Cleveland. Why would he stick around? To deal with a piece of shit owner that threw him under the bus whenever he could? An owner that grew tired of losing money hand over fist year after year thanks to the luxury tax? As much as you want to bitch about LeBron, he fulfilled his end of the bargain. He brought a championship to Cleveland. He lived his childhood dream. It's best for all parties involved that he left. LeBron gets to expand his brand in ways that transcend the basketball realm. His passion is in movie making. He owns several houses in Los Angeles. His children are attending schools in LA, and athletes like him always desire a new challenge. What the future will hold for him is uncertain. Maybe he wins a championship in LA, or he fails to get past the Warriors and his tenure goes down as a failure. Even if it is, what LeBron is doing is the best for LeBron. But what does this leave for Cleveland? What they have now is a team built for LeBron, by LeBron, but with no LeBron. They have hundreds of millions of dollars in payroll locked up in albatross contracts that are near unmovable. They can't add to the roster without going over the cap and triggering the luxury tax. The Cavaliers are a combination of old overpaid players and young overpaid players. Who is their guy now? Oft-injured Kevin Love, Colin Sexton, Rodney Hood, fucking J.R. Smith? Even if they were to buy out a lot of these contracts, they would be stuck in a Brooklyn Nets type situation where they are stuck paying these guys for years into the future. I wish I had comforting thoughts, but the reality is grim. The Cavaliers are looking square in the face at an age of darkness and despair, a time where the team will be, at best, a fringe playoff contender. The fires of the Cayahoga are burning deep into the Cleveland night, and there may be no ridiculous draft lottery luck to save them this time around. The golden age of Cavs basketball is over. The best player your team has had and will ever have is gone. Possibly for good this time. The land isn't just fucked, it is super duper fucked. At least you'll have the memories and that shiny trophy to cling on to as the city sinks into Lake Erie once again. Thank God that the Indians will distract you before they choke in the playoffs again this year. You seriously thought he was going to head to Philadelphia? God, you are fucking idiots.